Hi there! You're about to listen to a vintage episode of the Under the Microscope podcast. While the content is still as relevant and as interesting as when it was recorded, our webpage has changed. You can now find us at thesciencetalk.com/real-scientist-nano. Welcome to Under the Microscope. This series is brought to you by the Real Scientists Nano team. Our goal is to provide a platform where scientists can communicate their work and interact with the public. With that in mind, every week we introduce you to a scientist working in the field of materials and nanoscience, who would be curating the RealSci_Nano Twitter account. Hi everyone, today we have with us Loreta Muscarella, who is a PhD candidate at AMOLF, which is an institute for atomic molecular physics in the Netherlands. Hi Loreta, how are you doing?
Hello, hi. Good. And you? How is it going?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited to take a deeper dive into your science and getting to know all about you as a scientist. So let's start by understanding your career so far. So please tell us how you got to where you are in the Netherlands in AMOLF. Tell us.
Yes. So I come from Italy. I come from Palermo, which is a city in Sicily, the big island in the south of Italy. Mm-hmm. And I did my bachelor in chemistry and the master in physical chemistry in Rome, in La Sapienza. And about at the end of my master program, I applied for the Erasmus project. So I was selected to go to the Netherlands for spending some time for doing my master thesis. So I spent 6 months at the University of Amsterdam. And I started by doing some research on perovskite materials. That it's something that I'm also doing at the moment during my PhD. And when I moved back to Rome, so after completing my thesis, I also completed all my studies. And before my graduation, I also started to apply for a PhD position in Europe. So I applied in Switzerland and the Netherlands. Funny enough, I ended up again in Amsterdam at AMOLF, where I'm now spending 4 years of PhD. So at the moment, I'm at the 3rd year and a half. So I'm approaching the PhD thesis writing and, of course, the defense. So this is where I am now, but in a bit I will be ready for the next chapter, that it's after the PhD defense.
Okay. Wow, that's quite a journey you've had. And so basically from did you always know that you want to be a chemist?
So I felt already like at the end of my high school, I was in doubt between physics and chemistry, but then I had the feeling that chemistry was my way. So then I had no doubt that I had to continue with chemistry. But then I also liked physics, and that's why during my master I thought maybe it's good to combine the two, what we can do, and then it was physical chemistry.
Okay.
But my master's was really focused on more material science. So that was really physical chemistry, but then related to materials. That's something that I really like.
Okay. All right. So now that you have managed to combine physics and chemistry, become a material scientist, if I may call you that, where does your current research, so your PhD work, for example, where does it fall in this big picture of materials or nanoscience? I mean, you did speak a little bit about it in the short podcast, but yeah, could you tell us that?
Yes, so I think that indeed my research at the moment is really material science, in the sense that I'm working on this novel class of material that is the perovskite, and by manipulating both the chemistry of this material, and also looking at for example, at optical properties of this material, I can basically combine the physical chemistry that I have by background, by training, with this with material science. And in the end, what I really think that is interesting is the fact that in life we use a lot of materials. So materials are really the core of our life. So understanding better how we can make a material better for different application is really important if we want to improve our the device that we use every day. So that's really my job, is really to study how properties can change as a function of different external stimuli.
Okay, so are you then involved with like the synthesis or fabrication of these materials as well? So from creating these materials to actually evaluating their properties, doing characterization basically on them. Is that something that you do on a daily basis? Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. Indeed, what I'm doing at the moment is to basically fabricate the perovskite first in the form of thin film, and then what I do is to, for example, I work a lot with pressure. So I apply a certain external pressure. I look at the properties of this material, and then what I do next is to basically manipulate the chemistry to obtain a similar effect of pressure, but then by changing the chemistry, for example, by applying some internal strain, for example. So now what I'm doing at the moment is really look at what affects the material properties, and then try to include to really induce this effect in a chemical way.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. So it sounds to me that you're involved in a lot of interesting research projects. Like, of course, your PhD is part of it, but I'm sure there are like several also during your bachelor and your master, and also during your PhD. So I know this is a difficult question, but if you have to pick one research project that you are most proud of, or the most fun or quirky one, could you pick one and explain it to us in simple words in the section we call In Other Words?
Wow, that's difficult, and that's difficult because I actually have two. If I may talk about two.
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
But for two different reasons. And so one is about the effect of pressure. So they both are related to the pressure effect of on this material. So one is related to the effect of pressure on this hot carrier cooling. So this hot carrier cooling is basically a process that we have in the material when we excite the material with the energy larger than the band gap of the semiconductor. So basically all this excess of energy has to be released as in the form of heat, and we can manipulate this process by applying pressure. So we can make this process faster or slower depending on pressure. And this is something that I'm really proud of, because it's a very physics project. Also in terms of really the background of the process and the data analysis, and I'm not really a physicist, so for me it was really hard, but I'm also very proud of this achievement. So that's something that it's really far from my background. And there is also another project that I really like, and this is for me is the most fun project that I have ever done. And it's still about pressure and perovskite. And the idea of this project was to look at perovskite made by different halides species, so especially with bromide and iodide. And the idea is that when you mix these two halides, you can have any band gap that you want. Because with perovskite, it's very the perovskite are very flexible in this sense. But the problem is that when you illuminate this material, you lose the band gap, because you form iodide rich domains and bromide rich domains, and this is a problem because you don't want to have a material that change over time.
Yeah.
And what we found is that actually, if you apply pressure, you can stop this migration of ions, which is something that we would really like to have in a real device, because we don't want to have this phase segregation. And it's very funny because you can really see how these ions migrate and they go back and forth in the materials. That's something that make you realize how real is the science that you are doing. Like, you can really see the process live, and that's something that I really enjoyed.
Okay. Wow. I can imagine why you chose both of these projects as one of the most, or two of the most that you're proud of. Let me put it that way. Yeah, that sounds really, really cool. And so is this something that you did, this part of your PhD work, or was this like your master work, or before that?
So these are both two of my projects during my PhD. So they are actually quite recent work that we published. So we are very proud of that.
Okay, I hope you will talk about that on Twitter as well.
Yeah,
do share
sure.
the links of the papers as well. That would be amazing. That sounds cool. Awesome. So Loreta, it sounds to me that you definitely enjoyed the research aspect of being a scientist. That's correct, right? You enjoyed the
Yes,
getting your hands dirty in the lab. Well, not literally dirty, of course. But other than the research, what else do you like about being a scientist?
Yes, for sure. One of the things that I really like is to work with students. It's something that I really liked also during my master, when I was assistant in the lab for bachelor students. It's something that you really learn a lot, because you never stop learning. And where you talk with students, you realize that there is really a world that you can still learn. And it's nice to really be in the lab together with someone else working on the same project. This is definitely something that I really like of science and academia in general. And of course, collaborating with other people, sharing thoughts, and also creating new collaboration. I think this is the real core of the science.
Okay. Wow. That definitely, yes. I agree with all the points that you mentioned about being a scientist. I do miss that part. I definitely do. It's really nice. Being a scientist, not just the research, but also like collaborating and mentoring the next generation and stuff.
Yeah.
I can completely. I hope you're getting to do all of that. Collaborating with interesting people, talking about your science, and also mentoring the next generation, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really like that.
And speaking of next generation, or collaborating a little bit, if you were to go back in time, what advice would you give yourself if you were just about to start off your scientific journey, or also the scientists today, like the students rather, who are starting off their careers of being a scientist? What advice would you have?
That's a really nice question. So I have mainly two advice, maybe, that I would also give to myself if I can go back in time. And the first one is to don't think too much to publication. So there is a lot of pressure on scientists because of publication and the H index, and publishing in very good journals. That of course is very important, but the most important thing that I am just afraid that people will lose in time is the joy of doing science. So we should focus more on the science, and then I'm sure that if you enjoy science and you have nice question to answer, then the publication will be just a result of what you are doing, of your job. Because if you think too much to publication, then you will lose the good part of the science. That it's really the fun and the question and the really, I think this is one of the advice that I will give. And the second one that I would say is to not think that you are not enough for doing something. And this is something that I felt on myself, because when I started my PhD in physics, because AMOLF is a research institute mainly focusing on physics, I thought I'm not good enough because I'm a chemist, because I'm a material scientist, but that's not true, because in the end, science, let's say the best part of science is also the collaboration. So there is no science if there is no collaboration between chemists and physicists and material scientists, and we cannot know everything, so we learn all the time. And maybe, okay, I'm not a physicist, and there is always someone who knows more on physics than me, but then there will be always a moment where I know more in chemistry or in material science, and with collaboration then we can answer all the questions that we have. So this is my second advice.
Wow, both very solid advices. That is. Thank you for sharing that, Loreta. I hope that people take your advice, and also you can share this advice also with the people that you're collaborating with and you're supervising, so to say, the students as well. Because both advices are really, really important, that to focus on the science and not just publishing, because that just takes the joy out of it sometimes. It's just this pressure of publishing all the time. It's like focus on the science and the publications will follow. I think that's a very sound advice. And also knowing that you are good enough, you have, like, don't let the imposter syndrome, so to say, take over you, because you do have the knowledge which someone else does not have. You always have something you can contribute, and if you don't know something, you can always collaborate with people who know about it.
And learn.
And learn, exactly. Yeah. So Loreta, I hope your research experience so far has been wonderful, and it will continue to be wonderful if you do decide to stay in research. However, if you had 3 wishes to improve your research experience, what would you ask for? And I'm not promising anything here, okay?
Yeah, this is also a difficult question, because in a way I feel I'm very lucky to work at AMOLF, because there is a very nice environment and a lot of people that are always willing to help and collaborate. So maybe a more general wishes that I have for the future, it's more related to a change in the system as it is now. So, for example, as I said before, like less stress for paper publication, because this doesn't define how good you are, the impact factor of a journal, and maybe more fundings also for young researchers that want to do some research, and maybe they cannot, there is no funding for them. And something that I really think would be useful to have more and more is collaboration between industry and academia, that I still think there is a bit not connected. So there is always academia and there is always industry, but it's really hard to find places where these two collaborate together for the same goal. So that's something that I really would like to have in my future as a researcher.
Okay, all right. Yeah, all three wishes, really cool, really important points that you raised. What you also mentioned with the publication earlier, and more funding for researchers, young researchers specifically, and also the third wish that you mentioned, more collaboration between academia and industry, because that is oftentimes missing. The academia and industry is working in silo, but if we join hands, it's so much more one can do. I hope we are working towards making these wishes come true, at least, and with young researchers like you, I'm sure we are going in the right direction. We are headed in the right direction. So thank you very much for expressing those wishes. This has been wonderful, Loreta. But before I let you go, one last question for you, and that is 2020. So last year, 2020, has been quite a year for everyone. could you share some of your learnings from the year 2020?
Yes, yeah, that's indeed was a very tough year, and not only from the let's say professional point of view, but also personal point of view. And what I really learned from this year was being flexible. I think that's something that we should all learn, because initially it was really tough to focus for working from home. Was something that I definitely was not used to. But if 2020 left me something, was really to learn to be flexible, and being able to work in a different condition, in different environments, and to not to be proud of our little accomplishment. So even if one day we are not as productive as we were at work, but then we write a paragraph or we read a paper, we should always be proud of what we do, because especially in this period, we don't have to be too tough with ourselves. And also we have, and I'm talking more for people who have maybe children, kids, family around. We should always find some time also to spend with them, even though we think that we are not working enough, or that we have some delay in our work. So that's something that 2020 left me.
Okay. Thank you very much for sharing those learnings. There's quite a lot that you learned. I'm sure there is a lot still you're learning, because we are still living in the aftermath of 2020, or extrapolation of 2020, whatever we call it. Thank you very much for speaking with me, Loreta. This has been wonderful. Looking forward to having you on Real Scientist Nano. Thank you.
Thank you for all the questions. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To know more about us, please visit our website, realscientistsnano.org, and follow us on Twitter at realsci_nano.